Dominica, listen to all of the recommendations that have been made, read all the reports that have come from election experts through the years and election observers through the years, special groups and so on. He will consult with the people and he will give us recommendations on how to go forward. That assignment cost the people of Dominica $450,000. And then Mr. Byron decided that instead of presenting a whole long list of recommendations, given his legal background, he would reduce those recommendations to revisions of our election laws, principally the Registration of Electors Act and the House of Assembly Elections Act. And so his report was going to come to the people of Dominica in two phases. Phase one would deal with the new Registration of Electors Act and the regulations to the Registration of Electors Act. And phase two would be the revisions or the amended House of Assembly Elections Act, which would take on board all the recommendations for treating and bribery and prevention of election offenses and campaign finance reform or regulations and access to media and so on. Mr. Byron advised us meaning the Prime Minister, who is the political leader of the of the Dominica Labour Party. He advised Francisca Joseph, Senator Francisca Joseph, the political leader of the United Workers' Party, and he advised me, Lennox Linton, as the leader of the parliamentary opposition, that he is going to engage with us, both parties separately, in this month of November to present his recommendations for changing the Registration of Electors Act so that we could reach consensus, we could have agreement. He already has consensus with the Electoral Commission. And hopefully the new legislation would go before Parliament. The bill would go before Parliament sometime in December to be enacted sometime in January of 2023. And then between April and May of next year, we could see the other piece of legislation, the House of Assembly Elections Act, the amendment to that, coming before the Parliament to bring on board the reform recommendations. Mr. Skerritt received Mr. Skerritt's letter, like the letters to us, is dated the 6th of November. That is the very day on which Mr. Skerritt announced that he's asked the president to dissolve the House and writs will be issued for an election on the 6th of December. And what that means is we're going to have another election, but we're not going to have the reforms of the electoral process, which the Caribbean Court of Justice, having examined what happened in 2019, told us the process was tainted. It was not fit for the purpose of delivering a free and fair vote. And we felt, given that advice that we received from our apex court, after all of us had been so concerned through the years, the time had come when we must, as a nation, agree that the process should be reformed. The taints, the poisons, the things that impact the process negatively should be removed. And that is why we were anxiously looking forward to the reform proposals from the Dennis Byron consultancy. Mr. Skerritt has been told they're ready. He's about to receive them. He says, no, I am not doing that. I am going to an election instead, and I'm doing that right now. What that means is that this election is not Dominica's election. It has nothing to do with Dominica. And so my advice to the people of Dominica is to stand down from this election. Leave it alone. We in the United Workers' Party have decided we will not be contesting the election. And our advice to the people of Dominica is do not vote in the election. Our advice to potential candidates from other parties, do not participate either. Leave it alone. This is Mr. Skerritt's election. It's not Dominica's election. Let Mr. Skerritt have his election by himself, and the people who have chosen to join him from his party. That is my advice. Because in times of crisis like this, it requires not United Workers' Party or some other party to respond. This is not about political parties anymore. This is about Roosevelt's carrot against the people of Dominica and their electoral process, which he believes belongs to him. And therefore, he can do what he wants with it. He can decide who will benefit from it. And he can decide that that electoral process will be used to ensure he alone and his party will win elections in Dominica. That's why we say it is not about Dominica. It's not about Mrs. Carrot. It's about Dominica. It's about Mrs. Carrot trying to take Dominica's right to elect its own government away from Dominica. And when that happens, Dominica must respond. Not just United Workers' Party. Every Dominica individual and institution who believes in what we stand for, who believes in a Dominica for all Dominicans, will understand what we are talking about and suggesting tonight, that this election on the 6th of December is Mrs. Carrot's election, and he should be left to participate in it by himself and whoever have decided to join him as candidates. But we, the people of Dominica, should stand to stay away from that election. Let the record show that others did not participate in it. Let the record show that this is what it was. It was a Mr. Carrot election, not our election. Our election is due a few years down the road, and we will have that election a few years down the road with reforms. That is what we stand for, and that's what we move ahead with. Later tonight, I'm going to share with you a letter that I sent as leader of the parliamentary opposition to the president, expressing concern about the actions of the president in this matter and the need for the president to stand by the people of Dominica and the public interest of Dominica and to use the executive authority of the country vested in him accordingly.
Thank you very much, Mr. Linton. Here you have it from Mr. Linton, the leader of the parliamentary opposition on the issue of electoral reform and why the party is not participating in this Roosevelt's Carrot, how you say it, elections. And I don't see it as Roosevelt's, I see it as the, it's a Roosevelt's Carrot election. I see it as Mr. Carrot having a kindergarten party. That's what I'm seeing all over social media, a kindergarten party. Points out. But we join us in studios right now is our PRO from the Roseau Central, Mr. Glenroy Coffey. Mr. Coffey, can you just share with us your thoughts on what Mr. Linton said and even anything else you have to say on what's going on?
Yes, so let me say good night to our honorable leader of the opposition, our leader of the party, obviously Francisca Sika Joseph. What a formidable leader we have. She likes me to say interim leader. I don't know why, but she's been doing a great job. Everybody admires her doing that.
Indeed.
And obviously, Monel Williams, let me say good night to you.
Yes, sir.
You know, it's always a pleasure to be in the company of women. They say sometimes the women normally outdo the men. But Sparks, we're not in the competition tonight. And we're not in competition with ourselves.
That's right.
We are a team tonight.
We are complimenting.
We are complimenting. Thank you very much.
That is correct. Indeed, indeed.
So let me
Teamwork makes the dream work.
teamwork. So let me say good night to the constituents of Roseau Central. And let me say to the many persons in Roseau Central who have called me personally, who have messaged me, who have actually get to me some way, some shape, some form, to instruct me that we are not participating in any elections this time around. So we have to actually adhere to the wish of the people, and so that is their wish, and so we will adhere. We are saying, as a team, as Dominicans, as the people of Dominica, there should be no elections without reform. And so, people, tonight, as usual, we will be making our presentations. We will be interacting with you. We come here to have a discussion with you. We come to interact and we come to exchange ideas. We always say that we are a party of inclusion, and we ask people to come forward, join this party. Is still the most formidable opposition party, and we are about the people's business and not of ourselves. And that is testimonial in the fact that we could take that bold step to say, no, we are not participating. So we put country first as opposed to people.
Right. Absolutely.
So we are team players. We are out to for service of the men and great women of Dominica, and not about ourselves. So right now we are proven to the world and to those who think that we will pour. For those who think that we are power hungry, we have shown that we have risen above all of the negatives and have put Dominica first on this globe. So let me just say we do not have all the answers, so we expect you to interact with us, call in, make your calls, but say it with, respectfully and to respect each other. And it's always a pleasure to disseminate information to you. It's a learning process. Some people think that we speak too much, but I will take the quote from Mr. James. It is always good to jaw as opposed to war. That's the foundation that we stand on, and that's the rock that we believe in. And we can never stop talking, because is one day we will be free from all of the burdens. But one thing I'm telling you tonight, remember, no reform, no elections.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coffee. Just want to inform our good friends on Facebook.
Yes, share the live.
Share the live.
Share the live.
Share. I want to see us hitting 500 in the next 30 minutes.
Yes. 30 minutes is too long.
No,
Honorable John. In the next 10 minutes.
10, 15 minutes.
Just
share the live.
Yes.
Because the information that has to be disseminated here tonight needs to be heard by people across the length and breadth of this country. I invite our Labour brothers and sisters to join us. I invite the candidates who have decided to put themselves up on a Labour Party ticket to join us tonight. Come on board and listen to what your brothers and sisters of this country who have decided that they are taking a stand.
And don't be mistaken, we are very powerful, because many of our candidates, United Workers' Party, were approached by these people already.
Yes.
That's correct.
And we decided to stand down.
We don't Judas them.
Country
We don't Judas them.
Country before
We could have got
party
millions of dollars.
That's correct.
politics.
But we decided no.
No way.
The rest of the Dominican people, we suffer with them.
Yes.
Today someone was telling me, you, Hector, you're going to give up your salary as a member of parliament, your city show. And I said that I'm a team player.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm a sportsman. I learn how to play as a team. And you have to take one for the team once in a while. And that is not taking a team, one for United Workers' Party, no. Taking
For
one
Dominica.
for Dominica.
Dominica, man.
I was telling someone I will be losing at least 30 grand a year, and plus what they give us for gratuity and whatever.
Yeah.
And to me, I am feeling good about it.
Amen.
It's a worthy sacrifice.
Oh, my God.
And people beginning to understand.
Yes.
Someone told, a gentleman just told me a while ago, I normally go at Qatar.
Yes. Of course.
So the gentleman said to me, Mr. John, I try to understand why you all not running this election. And I said to him, I ran in 2009 when Roosevelt was at his peak. We asked for reform.
Right.
2014, we asked for reform. Nothing.
Yes.
2019,
we begged and pleaded for it.
2022.
We come back here.
And the same thing.
And the same thing. But Hector John, you are in a constituency where the people overwhelmingly support the United Workers' Party.
Yeah.
Overwhelmingly. So your situation is completely separate and apart from mine and Sika Joseph.
Yeah.
Let me say here on live, on TV and on Facebook, and again, I invite people to share this live, because you need to know. We ran the 2019 general election not because we didn't know that we were not going to lose. It's because we needed to gather information so we could give to you, the people, to show you the unfair advantage that the Labour Party has. I watched Addis King register her son in the St. Joseph constituency. Addis does not live in St. Joseph, and neither do her children. They did not grow up here. They are not constituents of the St. Joseph constituency. Post the election, they disappeared as quickly as they had come. We filed, we prepared affidavits, we objected, On polling day, we asked this young man to take an oath that said that he is agreeing that his vote is a legitimate vote in this election. Of course, he was told, go ahead and vote because we will throw it out of the courts. It will never be heard. 50 objections in the St. Joseph constituency, 200 affidavits prepared, presented as a petition that was not heard. Brothers and sisters, you are asking me to subject 980 St. Joe, people from Layu and Miro and Bells, to another election. The people of St. Joseph who overwhelmingly decided that they wanted a change in the constituency, to come again and present an X on a ballot, knowing fully well that the odds have been stacked against us.
Yes.
The victory is already the Labour Party's.
Yeah.
And it's not a victory, it's a stolen advantage.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. When
These are the people.
Yes, and
Sika, do you
when
understand
you
that-
look at
that-
when you look at people, young men, after the election of 2019,
Yes.
are in bitter tears, crying, can hardly take a breath.
Yeah.
You are in
You're
pain as well,
broken.
That's correct.
right? But
Yes.
you have to stand,
And
because
try
you
to
see in
console
them, they're saying, you know what? No, but we had it.
We had it.
We had it. We worked.
Yes.
We didn't take bribes.
Right.
You
Right.
know, nobody paid us.
Yeah.
We took out little monies that we had from our pockets to pay our buses, because that is how we saw Dominica,
Right.
that we wanted better for Dominica. We wanted our young people to thrive. We didn't want our young people to be vulnerable to this man when he comes now. So they are vulnerable. He comes in, he attacks them, and then he drops them,
Yeah.
and their lives are destroyed.
Yeah.
This is what the United Workers' Party is standing for, and we will continue to stand.
Yes.
Yes.
Whether or not we get paid for anything, we will continue to stand.
Yeah.
And this is the reason that I stood.
And honorable leader, you've made it right. And yeah, they have accused us, of not being together. Probably they went to the extent to say we are infighting. A man leads a country and is calling election without the knowledge of his people
And his members.
and his members, and of his members, right? And have them in all sorts of the confusion and fighting and trying to patch things that is nothing. When a man can disrespect his own people and do such thing, what is it that this man is doing to
And
Dominica
so
that we don't know about?
You announce election,
Yeah.
and one portion of the country knows nothing about
About it.
because they are under the onslaught of a natural event, right?
Right.
Flooding, they had no service, they had no electricity.
Oh my God.
Some of them did not know how they were getting home because they were not home, and they had no idea, no access to anywhere. You a passer,
Yes.
you mention them. You know what? You are not important.
Important.
The important thing is
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
I need power, so I will use you to get me in power. And then now you come and you pretend that all is well with them. They are still suffering. So at this time, we are saying this election should not go through,
Yes.
because
Shouldn't.
you still have some people
Yeah.
who did not even register
Yeah.
on the midnight time when the writ was issued.
Yes.
And that is another
Right?
issue that I have, Teacher Sika, because this morning, last night I thought of it. I sat down, I said, man, I called the chief elections officer and I told him that a registering officer permanent registering officer in the community is not on island. The writ was issued in the morning. And so the final, how do they call it? The final
Registration.
is on that day.
It's on that day.
midnight.
Midnight,
Yes.
correct.
Midnight, yes.
Monday midnight. So there are a lot of people who are disenfranchised
Of course.
because
What about
they-
the people from the east who did not know an election was called?
Exactly.
Thank you very much. So
Exactly.
I took it on my own. I am writing to I'm going to put it officially, writing to the chief elections officer tomorrow and register my concern.
Right.
Because they were not ready. If you're
calling an election,
that means no voter or a would-be voter should be
disenfranchised.
Disadvantage. Yeah, that's
And
correct.
that is a problem. Then you have the entire East
Yeah.
who knew
Nothing about
the
elections.
entire East who couldn't go to register
Yeah.
on the Monday.
Absolutely.
So that means that elections right now, there are a lot of people, over hundreds of people who are
Hundreds,
disenfranchised.
but of course.
Because on a normal election time, when the writ is issued, we register sometimes close to 40 young people on average. What about across the country?
Yes.
Exactly.
Now you have pre-registration that took place in the apartment, Riverside apartment. Over 200 people got registered. I'm hearing registering officers are concerned.
They are concerned,
And-
but
And Hector John, what you continue to
Boy.
just tell the people of Dominica,
Yeah.
and guys, you hear us laughing. It's only to just give ourselves a little bit of comfort sometimes.
Yes.
We
Yes, yes,
smile
yes,
to
yeah.
comfort
Yes.
ourselves that it's not over until it's over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We smile because of that, but it is nothing to smile about.
I tell people I'm honored. Yes, Mr. Linton on the comment. Let me just bring in Mr. Linton. Come in, Mr. Linton.
Yeah, thanks, Honorable John. I was just listening to the comments of the other members of the team, underlining the fact that the country is not ready for an election, right? So while let's talk in the Labour Party about catching people with their pants and their undergarments down and so on, it's that's I keep saying, it's not about the nation. It's about Mr. Skerritt. It's not our election, it is his election. It's not the people's election. Because listen to this. You know, everybody says, okay, or some people say, well, but the Constitution allows him to do it. The Constitution allows him to call election at any time. Yes, the Constitution does. But the same Constitution gives the responsibility to the Electoral Commission for the running of the election. Political parties cannot run an election, you know. While the Prime Minister can call the election, he cannot run it. So the same Constitution that gives him the power to call it at any time is the same Constitution that gives another entity, the Electoral Commission, the responsibility to run the election. And so the Constitution, the framework of the Constitution, never envisaged that a Prime Minister with the responsibility to call election would be calling elections for the Electoral Commission that has to run it not to be ready. The Prime Minister must call elections when he is satisfied that the Electoral Commission is ready to host the election, to run the election. And if he calls the election, or he suggests he's going to call the election, the Electoral Commission should tell him, listen, we need time for this, that to be done. I remember some years ago in Antigua, they were asking Baldwin Spencer, the Prime Minister, when is he going to call the election? And Baldwin Spencer said, I am waiting for the commission to give me the okay that they're ready with the survey they were doing, with the ID cards they were implementing and so on, re-registration. I'm waiting for them to tell me that they're ready. The Prime Minister of Dominica had the obligation to do the same thing. He had to be satisfied that the Electoral Commission was ready for free and fair elections before he went and called the so-called early election, because there is no justification what he has done. When you listen to him, he tells you, I am doing it because we have to move on from COVID. So I need a new team. But he also tells you in that same statement that I want to get rid of some members of my team who helped to wrestle COVID into the ground in Dominica. Some of the members of my team who broke the back of the COVID pandemic, but all of a sudden now, they're not suitable for government in the post-COVID era. He's talking about the economy. We're in a gas shortage in Dominica. At the time of the announcement, there was a gas shortage in Dominica. Why? Because of the regulatory misconduct of the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister has regulated people out of the market, and that is what has caused the shortage. As somebody mentioned, we had bad weather in the east of the country, flooding. People were dislocated. People were traumatized. People were disconnected, fending, trying to fight for their lives, and the Prime Minister was busy calling an election. It is not our election. It is not Dominica's election he's called. It is his election. And so while the Constitution, as I said, provides for the Prime Minister to call election when he wants, the Constitution also provides for the Electoral Commission to run those elections. And therefore, there has to be, in the public interest, some sort of understanding between the two. Mr. Skerritt cannot be calling elections when the commission is not ready. So, for example, the commission normally appoints returning officers and presiding officers. They do a vetting process for that, I would presume. Did they have the time to do that? At the time that Mrs. Skerritt called the election, did they have presiding officers and registration officers in place? Or did they rush after Mr. Skerritt called election to put them in place without a vetting procedure that would ensure you have people fit for the purpose of registering and doing the work of the presiding officers? All of these are issues. All of these tell us that Dominica is not ready for an election at this time, and Dominica ought not to be ready for any election at this time because the term of office is 5 years. But one man is forcing the country into an election for which it is not ready, for which the Electoral Commission, having worked with the consultant on electoral reform for the last year, and are now ready to start implementing proposals from that exercise. Remember, Mrs. Skerritt told us after the election, in 100 days you'd have reforms, Bring in Byron. 100 days. Look at where we've come. We're 3 years out from the election, and just about the time when we have been advised that the recommendations are ready for consideration and to go before Parliament and so on, Mr. Skerritt decides he's going to have another election without reform. And we're saying, okay, that's you. You want to have that election. The nation's election is a couple of years down the road. There's enough time for the reforms to happen, and we must go ahead and do what is necessary. So right now, I want to repeat what I said at the beginning. People of Dominica, stay away from Roosevelt Skerritt's election. This is not Dominica's election. Let Roosevelt Skerritt be in his election. Let him be there with whoever wants to stand. When I'm talking to those tonight too, consider carefully what you're doing. Because what you're doing is clearly not in the public interest of Dominica. And it clearly amounts to an attack on our democracy in this country. Our right to elect government of the people, by the people, for the people. Mr. Skerritt has decided that he wants to do that because rather than lead Dominica, he wants ownership and control of Dominica for his private gain. You will hear nothing in this election campaign that they have running because they have meetings tonight and so on. You will hear nothing about the billions of dollars from the sale of our citizenship that is outside of Dominica under foreign control. You'll hear nothing about that. You will hear nothing about our resources that are outside that are supposed to come in to help us in times like when we were dealing with COVID and got no stimulus. In times like now when we're dealing with the fallout from COVID and the effects of the war and the gas prices rising and the food prices all around rising, we can use our money that we have. We can use our money we have outside to launch a youth entrepreneurship investment bank. I proposed it in the budget. It will help to create that partnership with the young people of Dominica in the development of their country. Put money there, put technical assistance there to get them to bring to life the wonderful ideas they have about building themselves, about doing things for themselves, about creating new things, building new businesses. The investment bank, the entrepreneurship investment bank will do that, and we have the money to do it. I propose capitalization with $100 million. Okay, you might think $100 million is too much, $50 million. But let's get it done for the young people. You hear nothing like that. All you hear is programs that are designed to create greater and greater dependency among people. And the reason we're having this, the reason Mrs. Skerritt is putting this election is because he wants more time, he says, to fix the economy and to make a handover to the person who's going to succeed him because he doesn't intend to stay there for more than 2.5 years. Mrs. Skerritt has resigned. It's just that we haven't found a way to accept the resignation, but Mrs. Skerritt has thrown in the towel, he has resigned. 3 years into the contract that he got from the people of, that he took from the people of Dominica, he's saying things are not good. Things are not good. Nobody is opposing him, Things are not good. He has a parliament where anything goes. Everything they want goes. He can do what he wants. He can hand $1 billion airport to his friend, no tender. his friend can give the $1 billion airport to a foreign company on foreign soil with no Dominican present. That's it. What do they want this reset button to press for? So all we are seeing is really no justification for the early election. And it simply has to do with Mr. Skerritt's march towards ownership and control of Dominica, its resources, its people, its electoral process for his own gain. He has set himself up against Dominica, and Dominica must respond. Not only United Workers' Party, Dominica. And so I'm calling on all the Dominicans who believe in this land, this Isle of beauty, this Isle of splendor, this Isle to also sweet and fair, that we gaze in wonder at because of all the gifts we have that are so rich and so rare. They don't belong to one man. They belong to all of us. Our democracy is precious to us. We must stand for it. And the way we stand for it now is by not participating in a sham election that is a blight on our democracy. We must stay away from it. And we're doing just that. And we're asking the nation to join us in staying away from an election that has nothing to do with the nation and everything to do with the private dreams and schemes, dictatorial, tyrannical schemes of Roosevelt Skerritt. That's where it is, and that's why we stand. I will share my letter to the president in a little while.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Linton.
And Hector, you know what, Monel and Susu, he had the best team in 2019.
Yes.
Remember when we were presenting our candidates on the Bayfront and they were at Castle Bruce and they denigrated us. Oh, 21 of them, one of them is worth 21 of us. It's
right.
like we were considered as nothing.
Yeah.
You know, and that is my best team. This is the best team that you can find. Best team in 2019. You go 2020, 2021, 2022. They're no longer the best team. They're no longer the best team. Now you get the bestest team to put there.
Kindergarten.
And you tell them, and you tell us that you're going to reset. This is the reset button. It takes you 20, how many decades is that? 3 decades, almost 3 decades to get the reset button. So you reset after Erica. You reset after Maria. No, you're resetting after COVID. You know, you reset. How are you going to reset? Because now you realize the economy is in shambles. Who made the economy in shambles after 20-something years?
That is correct.
Right? You, after Tropical Storm Erica, you use the opposition. You say, these, oh, they were beautifully, they assisted in the response and everything. So on Sunday evening, I'm listening to Skerritt, and I'm saying, oh, he's going to get the nation together to respond to the situation.
Yeah, to the situation.
So people are waiting patiently to
hear how.
So I am waiting to say, okay, he's going to call Lennox Linton now. He's going to call us and say, well, you know, as you all did after Tropical Storm Erica, you can do so and come. Let us come work together to help the people to respond to the people. Lo and behold, 2 seconds, a few seconds of the people.
Yes.
And
19,
the rest of it is full of pomp and ceremony, announcing to the world that you're calling an election because you're so happy. United Workers' Party has been cutting their pants down, or they're not ready. This has nothing to do with the United Workers' Party.
Did you hear the coward? I just want to.
Yes.
Did you hear the coward talking about a headless party? Hector, just spin that camera around and tell me this is headlessness.
No.
You know,
this is confirmation that this is teamwork.
Yes.
Exactly.
We can operate. We don't need a head to operate. We operate as a unit. You are the only political party who operates as the head. You are the be all in your the one. You are the be all in your party, and then you install young brothers like Darren Lloyd, who doesn't even know what is in the memorandum of understanding between Dominica and China. If I should ask him what minister of government, I mean, you ask him the basic. Just go ahead and ask the gentleman the basic questions.
And is the vulnerability of these young people. Yeah. And then is the understanding that he is the one who caused you to be in this vulnerable position.
But the man is
because if he had created the environment for you to thrive, create the environment for you to work because you have skills, you wouldn't be vulnerable to his whims and schemes now.
So let us put that cutting the pants down scenario in perspective. we would have been 21 of us contesting. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
You have a bloated list of over 70,000 people. Is that correct?
Mhm.
So if you would have caught 21 persons with their pants down, is that suffice to justify calling an
Calling an
election?
election.
You have a bloated list of 70,000 people. So the 21 of us is more important than the general population. That is nonsense. Let's dispose of that. Let me just say, that is why we say in a democracy, it is very important that elections, the rule of elections in a democracy is very important.
Absolutely.
The point is, when elections are called, we expect elections to be called and people participate. Everyone, and let me make the point, each and everyone, all of us should participate freely and we should experience free and fair elections. When we opt to select a government in a democracy, we do it with the idea that the party who sells the best message and has the message that will actually restore what they call peace, harmony, good governance, and bring a better quality of life to the people, that is what you choose.
Yes.
The Honorable Leader has made a very important point, and Honorable, you said that to an extent, and Monel, that I'm sure this campaign is about the United Workers' Party. I am certain that campaign of the Labour Party is about the United Workers' Party. How is that to bring restoration to the people right now who are suffering in Pidit Sufria? The people of Lapland, the roads are blocked. They cannot come down. They may be running out on supplies. How do you administer true governance and true patriotism to these people? We have a suffering population. I'm saying this election is just a justification of the government to spend willy-willy again. And we have seen the modus operandi for the past 3 or 4 election cycles where the government used that opportunity to just spend money on things that are not necessary, whereas they do not take care of the real things to bring growth and development to this country. And the young people of Dominica have engaged a lot of young people in discussion since after the calling of this election. Up to now, some of them don't even know what is happening. You can see the atmosphere. It is a Dominica that is not ready for an election at this time. If young people whom you sit with on a daily basis were so shocked by you calling election, what does that tell you? Mr. Skerritt, this election that you have called right now is for yourself, it's for your own purpose, and this will benefit you alone. And I agree that the United Workers' Party has taken a stance, and we want to implore on everyone who has that good thinking, who is in that state of good sense of their mind, people who have sanitized them and cleansed their mind and take out those chemical cobwebs that may be plaguing your judgments. Please, for some of you who are contemplating to even join that sham election, please, tonight is your night. Tonight is your night to stand for Dominica.
Yes.
You will only regret it. You will be humiliated and you will be shameful. You'll not even walk. So to avoid that kind of embarrassment, please stand for your country, stand for Dominica. Let us have a collective front and let us say tonight, once and for all, and stand up firm saying, no election, with no reform, no election.
Let me just add to the discussion as well. I am very passionate about it, and some people see me as one of the. I see myself as one of the radicals.
Rebel on a rebel.
Right. And COVID affected our Christmas celebrations for 2 years.
Yes.
A lot of people were looking at enjoying the Christmas celebrations, the families enjoying. Not only 2 years, 2019 was affected by election.
Yes.
2020, 2021 affected by
COVID.
People were looking have
forward.
Christmas time is family time.
You saw the festival was so nice.
Right. Everybody was just trying to. You see, they were using the festival for campaigning, and we saw that. But no one was expecting for him to go that far. But I'm telling Mr. Skerritt tonight, Roosevelt Skerritt tonight, I am making the sacrifice for my country. And the constituency of Salisbury is making a very big sacrifice. But the community of Salisbury will not accept any campaigning in Salisbury. And I want to get that message to you very clear, Roosevelt Skerritt. People of Salisbury will not accept any campaigning in Salisbury, and you are not welcome in Salisbury. I think Dominicans have to begin to put down their foot on this one. You are not welcome in Salisbury. Because you cannot tell me, this point in time, communities are trying to bounce back after COVID, trying to provide for their families, and you're trying to bring an election or impose your election on them. disrespecting Dennis Byron. You can say what you want about Dennis Byron. You paid him.
Mhm.
No, you told us that you're going to employ a renowned jurist in the Caribbean. You gave him his $400,000. You give him another $75,000 US. So it's about $600,000 that he received to do that. He sent you a letter on December 6th telling you that his plan and his end game, he gave you timelines. And because of the negotiations that were going on in the background with the Electoral Commission, and they supported some of the measures,
The
they were
recommendations.
very concerned. Even your members were in support of the recommendations made. You did not agree, and then you just call election, and people just have to accept it.
And Hector, is who gains,
no.
you know?
Who get?
Who gains?
My
You know,
sister.
I'm looking at this thing and it really hurts, you know. A young man is telling me, say, my pal rep, that's what they call it. You know, at the end of the day, we get nothing at all because they pay candidates to go up. They pay them to step down. Right now, they have already paid some because they handsomely paid. You see, Mr. When I check, all of them get paid, and at the end of the day, we the people of the communities get nothing at all.
Right.
We never get paid. Then you come back to us again and tell us, now, look, you paid these and other money. Now, these you have rejected. You're going to place them, install them again on the backs of Dominicans, and millions and millions and millions of dollars. So at the end of it, you have over 30, 40 ministers because they might get the same salary as those ministers. I mean, when will it end? When will the people of Dominica decide enough is enough?
Yeah.
I told the lady called me, what are you all doing? I said, wait, this is not a question for me. My question to you is, what are you prepared to do
What are you
to
prepared
save
to do?
Dominica, to save your children?
No, my sister, tonight, the discussion is not just about democracy. And any government who has sat in the office of prime minister, just held the office of government for that amount of time should have done something to strengthen the democracy.
Exactly.
Across the Caribbean, we have seen the advent of voter identification card,
Yes.
clearing of the list. And these are the same people, Honorable John, that came last election to come and tear gas the people of Salisbury and terrorize the people of Dominica. But we're sending a message to them, you know, do not dare do this again, because you have free and fair elections.
Exactly.
You have a clean voters list. Yet you come in this country, you send your RSS to come to this country and try to prevent the people of this country from seeking the same freedoms and liberties that you enjoy. This time it will not stand.
And you know,
some of you will come and may not go back.
we,
Be very careful that you do not come and try to impose your injustices on the people of Dominica. It will not stand.
and you know, we're calling on those new candidates. I'm really calling on them. I am not sure what came to them, but I hope they're listening to us tonight. Step down.
Of course.
Step down.
Hand in your resignation.
This is your career. You are talking about step down, because we have seen what has happened to young people that he has taken. He has destroyed them.
Oh boy.
They are broken. We have seen it. And if you go through, you will see the number of people who are broken because he took them away from their career path, installed them up and put them down when he's fed up with them. And we are calling on you, all these new candidates, beautiful young people.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful young
Potential.
people who have potential, who have skills, who have abilities. We are asking you to step down. Please.
Many of them do not even know the reason why they are standing tonight.
Yeah.
Many of them do not understand that this Roosevelt Skerrit, this coward, his only preoccupation is power. This man may have understudied the dictators. You see how we used to call Chavez? Father Chavez. This man has understudied dictators. And we as a nation need to understand what dictatorship will mean for Dominica.
I suspect we tried earlier to, but I know we're not going to try to dilute that with democracy, because one of the pillars of democracy is that we have the right to choose a government of our choice.
Yes.
And that is a strong.
But we have to call the man for who he is.
Yes, we are there. We are on track.
We recognize the dictatorship in him, you know.
But Hector made a point earlier that was very crucial, because it is my understanding that the registrar's officer in Emsall That person is currently ill. So had they done that audit, as you said, Honorable Leader, had they done that audit to know what is happening with respect to who is present, so it means that the Electoral Commission or the electoral is not ready. No. This is not ready because that has, of course, disenfranchised many persons who have loved to register. They have not gotten the opportunity in their polling area. So it means that these guys are just not doing their work, and they are just doing the liking and the works of one man.
He has taken over the electoral process.
How can a man sit in a democracy? And even if a man is a leader of a country, he is not in charge of all the institutions. You can say no. You have your work cut off for you. And the Electoral Commission work is cut off for it. When you have registered officers who are supposed to assist in the registering process, and some of them are ill and not unable to conduct that exercise or that activity, is it not your duty as an Electoral Commission or an electoral office to replace that person, to ensure that there's a replacement so people can get registered? Are you ready? Electoral office, you are equally responsible. You must tell Mr. Skerrit right now you are not ready. And Dominicans, remember, no reform, no elections.
Good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
On this matter.
Good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Yes, Workers' Voice. Listen to me. You are taking Skerrit for a joke.
Not at all.
You are taking Skerrit for a joke. Skerrit is not a joke. Skerrit is dealing with high science. What's the dates and the time and the numbers Skerrit are using? Remember the people at the diaspora that came in the White House last week? Them people all vote already. They all cast their vote already.
Okay, caller.
The people we have on the outside right now. Skerrit ready don't fix up his business like how he did in 2019. Skerrit don't play. You see how quick the election call on 2019? That's how it's going to happen again. Before it's 6 o'clock, you hear in Labour Party win. Nobody is taking part of election. We have to have a coup in this country. We have to stand up and agree it's fight we're fighting to save our country. If not, Skerrit will just be laughing us at the end of the day. We need to do what we're doing, and we need to plan and do it right. We cannot say we're going to stay aside because one nomination this part, Skerrit gets 21 seats and he's a happy man. We have to do what we have to do to stop Skerrit on his tracks. And if we don't do it now, we will not be able to do it again. So we just stay on the radio and talk, and nothing ain't happening. Let us put our foot out there and go and fight for our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Good evening, Honorable Sparks John. Good evening to the rest of your panel, the ladies, and Soto for Rozo.
The lines,
gentlemen,
the lines are very busy, so try to be as short as possible. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Gentlemen, do not believe that Skerrit did this thing spontaneously on receiving the letter of Byron. The letter he received was only the excuse he used to do what he wanted to do. Skerrit has been planning this thing for months now. I recall some months ago, I talked about an article that was in the Mail done by CS Global, talking about how Skerrit had managed the inflation in Dominica. Has anybody ever heard any government official or anybody talk about inflation in Dominica? But this is what happens. We're making a hullabaloo about Byron and the report. Remember, we paid Mia Mottley, the present Prime Minister of Barbados, $50,000 to do a similar report. It was done. The public don't even know about that. Byron submitted his report. It wasn't thing. He used that as an excuse, but he had this in the works for a while. He just used it as a plan. How do you think most of the disruptions came about? All of these things, we took the mouthings of Labour Party and we transformed it. We carried the message for Labour Party. That is why they claim that U.W is disorganized, but that is the thing they're wrong about. It's a structured party that's been there for 34 years. It has structure, it's organized, and it is there and solid. Now, we decide we're not going into the election, we're not taking part. If Dominicans, the consensus is that no reform, no election, we must also be prepared to embark on massive civil disobedience. And if I use the word of the representative for Roseau South, we have to make every one of them uncomfortable. Beginning from Charles Angelo Savre, we must give him a dose of his own medicine. They made the government of Patrick John uncomfortable. They all have to resign. So it is now we have to make every one of these candidates, everyone, we have to make them uncomfortable. And this is our mission. We cannot just sit by and talk anymore. We have reached a point, we have reached the breaking point. This is a contribution of the court system that has facilitated the cruelty that has been imposed on us. This is a result of the government that facilitated sending RSS troops into Dominica on the eve of election to interfere in our election. Let us send a message to them. If they come into Dominica again, we understand they're coming to shed our blood. They're coming to kill us. Be mindful that your blood is likely to be shed as well.
Thank you very much,
that
caller.
blood is going to be on, yes, and that's going to be on the hands and all the governments that happen to send these troops into Dominica. We will not tolerate it. Good night and thank you.
Yeah, well, I objected to the language of Roosevelt Skerritt back in 2014 when he threatened the people of Dominica at a meeting in Wesley that should they vote for United Workers' Party, the blood of Dominica would be on their hands. I don't like this talk about blood being on hands of people. I'm not we're not advocating or promoting violence. We're simply asking the people of Dominica to respond in a peaceful and effective way against a man who has decided the electoral process that belongs to the people of Dominica will be his to manipulate with impunity and to decide that he and he alone will choose government in Dominica, not the people. I want to make a point before we go on, and I'll read my letter after that point. In 2019, we had an election. In 2019, the government spent a whole set of the people's money on their election business. So 2019 was an election year. A significant amount of public money was spent buying influence, giving this over there, giving that there, making sure people vote for them. They spent a lot of the public money doing a lot of things that are about elections. And I want to make the point tonight again. People say we like to talk. Yes, I agree. I'm guilty. I like to talk. And sometimes I talk a lot because I feel what I say, which is in my mind important, people don't hear. So I want to say it again. The financial year 2018-2019 began on the 1st of July 2018 and it ended on the 30th of June 2019. So the election year started in January. By the time we came to June, the accounts of the government were showing that the overdraft limit of the government, which was set at $36 million, had reached $187 million. So the government in that time overspent the overdraft limit by $151 million. And then when the financial year came, when the other financial year came around, they corrected that by converting by converting $125 million of that excess election year spending into a long-term loan. The people of Dominica, the children of this country, are the ones who are going to be paying back that loan, that $125 million from the National Bank, representing excessive government spending in an election year. So the people of Dominica, notwithstanding all of their passport money that have been spent on the election excesses of this government, also have a debt to pay back to the National Bank for excessive election year spending, what they call abuse of incumbency, the government abusing the fact that it is in office to use the public's money to take care of its party business. $125 million. So here's what I said to Mr. Sovereign earlier this week. His Excellency Charles A. Sovereign, President, Commonwealth of Dominica, State House, Roseau, Commonwealth of Dominica. Your Excellency, read the calling of snap elections with a tainted electoral process. The issue of writs for a general election on December 6, 2022, more than 2 years before the constitutionally due date for the next general election, in circumstances where the reform of a tainted electoral process has been unreasonably denied, is a most savage attack on the democratic right to free and fair elections conducted with the hallmark of integrity. As the holder of the office in which the executive authority of the Commonwealth of Dominica is vested, you have a moral obligation to protect the state from the excesses of the ruling party politicians who are hell-bent on hijacking the electoral process and manipulating it with impunity for their own corrupt personal gain. Notwithstanding the constitutional provision that, quote, in the exercise of his powers to dissolve Parliament, the President shall act in accordance with the advice of the Prime Minister, end of quote, the legitimate expectation across the nation was that you would have objected to such a request and allowed the tainted electoral process to be reformed before the next general election, constitutionally due in May of 2025. You are very much aware of the guidance offered by the Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ, our apex court, on the way forward, based on its judicial assessment of the suitability of the electoral process for the purpose of free and fair elections. The CCJ concluded in paragraph 108 of its July 2022 decision on a 2019 election petition matter, quote, there remain areas of grave concern about how the process of these 2019 elections was conducted. Future elections in Dominica ought not to proceed with these or similar taints. By letter dated 8th August 2022, I requested Your Excellency's urgent attention to two matters arising out of the CCJ decision. Number one, the need for the President of Dominica to use his good office to ensure that the Electoral Commission and the officers he has appointed to conduct free and fair elections in Dominica heed the advice of the CCJ and implement the necessary electoral reforms to put an end to the continuing practice of tainted general elections in Dominica. And two, the need for the President of Dominica to order an investigation into the circumstances surrounding the failure to adequately address a patent non-compliance with the provisions of Dominica's election law in the 2019 election. Your Excellency did nothing and refused to act in your own deliberate judgment, although these matters indirectly relate to the Constituency Boundaries Commission and the Electoral Commission. You are aware that the Commonwealth Observer Mission at the 2014 general election concluded that the election was, quote, not necessarily fair due to multiple instances of treating and bribery, including the transportation of electors to the island to vote, and the apparent abuses of incumbency, including a lack of impartiality in the provision of public services, end of quote. You are aware of the obstructionist conduct of the Prime Minister that has, for 14 years and 3 election cycles, deliberately prevented the so-called Independent Electoral Commission from delivering on a 2008 commitment to clean the voters list and issue ID cards for voting. You are aware that the Prime Minister requested a joint mission from the Organization of American States, the Commonwealth, and the CARICOM to advise on reforms of the electoral process before the 2019 election, and yet refused to accept the joint mission's recommendations. You are aware that the eminent Caribbean jurist, Sir Dennis Byron, was retained by cabinet after the 2019 general election at a cost of $450,000 to review electoral reform recommendations, consult with the people, and advise on improving the electoral process. You are also aware that the recommendations of Sir Dennis will be presented in the form of amendments to the Registration of Electors Act Phase 1 and the House of Assembly Elections Act Phase 2, which required legal drafting services at an additional cost of $200,000 to the public purse. The people of this nation reasonably believed that the recommendations of the Sir Dennis Byron consultancy to improve the electoral process with amendments to our electoral laws would at least be considered by the Parliament of Dominica before the next general election. By letter dated 6th of November 2022, Sir Dennis advised the Prime Minister that he had reached consensus on proposals to amend the Registration of Electors Act with the Electoral Commission and was therefore ready to present Phase 1 of his report during the month of November 2022, this very month. Sir Dennis advised the Prime Minister on moving ahead with the electoral reform recommendations as follows. 1, I will present Phase 1 report during the month of November 2022. 2, Parliament will table the registration of electors legislation in December 2022 with a plan to enact it in January 2023 so that the register of electors could be compiled in accordance with the recommendations during that calendar year. Number 3, I will present Phase 2 of the report after a consultation process similar to that undertaken for Phase 1 in February to March of 2023. And 4, Parliament to table and enact the Phase 2 legislation in March, April 2023. Instead of committing to facilitate completion of the electoral reform proposals on the advice and recommendations of the Sir Dennis Byron consultancy, engaged at significant cost to the state, the Prime Minister has announced a dissolution of Parliament and a snap general election with the same tainted electoral process that we all know and accept is unfit for free and fair vote. The Prime Minister's justification is that he needs a national reset so that he can get rid of a number of ruling party members of Parliament who, quote, broke the back of COVID-19, end of quote, in Dominica and, quote, wrestled it to the ground, end of quote, because they are not competent enough to operate in the post-COVID governance of Dominica. I'm sure you will agree, respectfully, Mr. President, that this makes absolutely no sense in the public interest of free and fair elections with integrity as the backbone of our democracy. All we are witnessing here is the tyrannical march of one man to absolute ownership, not leadership, and control of Dominica, its people, its resources, and its currently flawed process for freely and fairly electing government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Respectfully, sir, it is time to use the executive authority of the Commonwealth of Dominica vested in you as president to rescue our country from the galloping, sinister threat to our existence as a responsible and developing member of the family of nations. For our part, the United Workers' Party, the official opposition party, shall not be contesting the sham general elections and thereby deny the Prime Minister the moral authority to lead this country. Respectfully, Lennox Linton, Leader of the Opposition. So again, I want to strengthen the point that it is not everything Mr. Skerrit tells the president to do that the president has to do without question. In this case, the president had a moral obligation to ask, what about the reform recommendations which are needed to get rid of the taints to the electoral process that our highest court in the region has cautioned us about and has told us clearly we should not go into another election with these taints to the process. Therefore, we must get the reforms done. What is the president saying about that? The president had a moral obligation to say to Mr. Prime Minister, yes, I will issue the writs for the election, but I will dissolve Parliament and issue writs for the election when the reforms have been completed, because we have more than 2 years to the constitutional due date for the next election. And so, yes, I will comply with your request because I'm required to do so by the Constitution. But I'm saying I'll comply with that request when the reforms have been completed. Simple as that, you know. But what they want to give us the impression is that anytime Mr. Skerrit speaks, then the president must do exactly what he says when Mr. Skerrit said it's to be done. So who looks out for us? Who looks out for Dominica? That is why, again, this election is not about Dominica. It's about one man trying to establish his right to do what he wants with Dominica as he pleases. And he's putting all the people in the right places to try to get that done. And we must respond. The first response is to ignore his sham election. Let him and the few people who are beholden to him for whatever reason participate with him in the election. The majority of the people of Dominica must stay away from that election in large numbers. And wherever possible, we must try to prevent it from happening. And it's simple, you know. There are a number of people, Dominicans like you and I, who have an obligation, a moral obligation, to step aside from what Mr. Skerrit wants them to do. The chairman of the Electoral Commission and the members of the Electoral Commission know very well that the commission, based on its commitment to deliver a better process for election, a fairer process for election, its commitment to deliver reforms, its commitment to clean the list and issue ID cards for voting, the commission has to know that it is not ready for the free and fair elections along the lines that the Caribbean Court of Justice says elections should proceed in Dominica. And therefore, since they are being forced into this election, conducting this election by Mr. Skerrit, more than 2 years ahead of time, the only honorable course of action available to them is to resign. Resign and go to the court. Tell the court that you have a problem and you want the election injuncted because you sit on the body constitutionally responsible for the conduct of elections in Dominica, and the Prime Minister is trying to use the constitutional authority he has to call election to prevent you from exercising your constitutional mandate. And that, to my mind, should be enough for the court to listen and to grant an injunction if members of the commission decide they want to injunct the election because they who have the responsibility for free and fair elections in Dominica are not ready at this time to do what they have committed to the public they will do. The people who are standing with Roosevelt Skerrit, ask yourself a question. Is that how you want to enter the Parliament of Dominica? You want to enter the Parliament of Dominica with a no vote, or if a significantly reduced, a significantly low voter turnout? People in Barbados were elected, you know, Mia Motley has all the seats, but 31% of the population, 31% voter turnout she had, you know, 31% voter turnout. She got all the seats. So based on the number of people who were interested in and voted, that's a minority government right there, even though you have all of the parliament. What do you want in Dominica? The people who are in there with Mr. Skerrit, a lot of them need to ask themselves questions as to how does this sit right with my conscience, knowing everything that I know? And then you have the persons on the outside, they're not in Mr. Skerrit's camp, or maybe they are. They are saying, well, okay, here's an opportunity for us. United Workers' Party is not going to be participating in the election. Let's jump in. Jump into what? What are you jumping into? An election with a flawed process that Mr. Skerrit has refused to fix because he's using it to benefit himself. And you're going to legitimize his election by joining in? I'm saying to you tonight as well, consider carefully what you're doing. Is that the way you want to announce your arrival in the political life of Dominica? Right? You cannot stand for a principle that is about free and fair elections with integrity, but you want to do what for Dominica? You want to fix Dominica? You want to help Dominica? The way to help Dominica right now, I'm suggesting, very simple, be on Dominica's side and stay away from Roosevelt Skerrit's election, because Roosevelt Skerrit's election is an attack on Dominica, to which Dominica must respond. And I'm saying as well to all the people of Dominica, stay away from the election. Don't, if it comes to that, if we come to actually have an election, because a lot of things are going on, you know, the injunction might be successful or other things might work and we may not have an election, but if we do have an election, stay away from it. Do not go to the polls, do not vote. Let Mr. Skerrit and his cronies vote, because it's not you Mr. Skerrit is doing this for. Think of your circumstances. Think of how much better things would have been if you had better governance. Think of how much better things would have been for you if Mr. Skerrit was not so self-centered and so tyrannical. That is what is before us tonight. Not who get caught with their pants down or any such foolishness. The question is whether Dominica is ready. And since Dominica's elections are being conducted by the Electoral Commission that clearly is not ready, because they cannot issue ID cards and they cannot clean the voters list. Therefore, they're not ready. And they need time to do that. Mr. Skerrit cannot be allowed to bully them now into doing what he wants. Because what all that would mean is that Mr. Skerrit is acting for himself, not for Dominica. Dominica wants ID cards. Dominica wants a clean list. Mr. Skerrit doesn't want that to happen. And Dominica must decide it is saying no. So it is not participating in Mr. Skerrit's election. It is going to push hard for the reforms to be implemented so that in 2 years' time, when the election is really due, when the cycle is really up, in the meantime, Mr. Skerrit can step down. He can step down because he has told us he's not ready, and he's told us he's failed, and he told us he wants to bring a new team, but he wants to do it in a very corrupt and unacceptable way. And that is enough reason for us to say, listen, forget about it, step aside. And if we had a president that understood the exercise of his executive authority, would be a much different country than that. The same man who told us who was ready to bring fire and brimstone and mash up the country in 1979. All of a sudden, he doesn't understand what it means to counsel a prime minister who is exercising the most tyrannical behavior and involved in the most blatant attacks on our democracy and what we stand for, and he will do nothing about it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Linton. Very long contribution. A lot for us to digest here in studios, and I just want us to The lines are open, they're going crazy. It's just 11 past 10 already. But on the discussion,
Just
of our viewers on Facebook as well. Thank you for staying with us because there's a lot of you still on.
Yes.
Yes, you still can share it live and on your page, so people who missed it can follow tomorrow or some days after. But Senator Joseph, where are we in terms of our people thinking of what is going on? You heard Mr. Linton's contribution, the CCG, everything in terms of injunction. You're in NJAM meeting. A lot of activities are planned.
Right into the president.
Right, coming on
And
to the weekend.
Senator, I'm pleased in a way that in 2019 we were kind of alone. Right? United Workers Party fought the battle alone. And I'm saying this time, I am seeing the unions, I am seeing a joint team, I'm seeing the churches, and I was so pleased, when I saw one of the persons in Catholic Church, he put out a post, and and he called on the other religious leaders, and he said, this is not just a physical fight, it is a fight for the children of God, and it's a fight that cannot be fought on the physical end only, it has to be fought on the spiritual end. And for this to happen, you need everybody's support. We need the support of all Dominicans. Because we know what is happening. I was just informed earlier today that a young lady was sent to register in a community polling district, and she was told that she did not meet the requirements. Right? They didn't allow her to be registered. The ex-PAL rep, ex-minister, sent her to another polling district to register. She was still told that she didn't meet the requirements. You find that wasn't enough. The ex-PAL rep minister brought the person to the registering officer, and the person refused. So I am saying we still have persons who have integrity in this country, and I'm so proud of some of our people. And I'm so proud of some of the candidates that prospective candidates that they asked to go up for this election. And they categorically said no, not because they couldn't go, but they have integrity. They stand up for something. They could have paid their mortgages for them and they could have given them money. But at the end of the day, this is not all. This is not what it is. So what we're saying, we are asking everybody to come on board. We're asking the churches, please. It is time for the churches in Dominica to rise.
Children of God.
Stand up for what is right. Stand up for justice. Because I always tell them, when Jesus Christ walked the earth, he stood up for all forms of injustice against people. All forms of injustice.
I say that all the time.
And he stood up. Right? And if we say we are children of God and we follow Jesus Christ, we ought to do likewise and stand up for our brothers and sisters who cannot even stand, maybe cannot even speak for themselves. So the churches, the unions, stand up. Be counted. The public officers, you are dying inside. You know it is wrong. You know, some of you, I understand, one of them just raised their hand in the air. It's like, what should I do? What can I do? In front of me, I just cannot take it. When somebody comes to tell you register over 100 and something people, and none of them meet the requirements for registration. None.
You were told to go ahead and register.
Go ahead and register. And it hurts you. How do you sleep? And how do you sleep at night? So this is what really that we are going through. And it is not a fight for the United Workers Party. It is a fight for the soul of Dominica. People, you see what is happening around us. It's not simple. It is not simple. And we have to pray. We have to seek God. We have to work. And the work is not for United Workers Party people, because as I tell you, it's for Dominica, it's for Dominicans. So we ought to stand. Let us all put our hands together. Anything can happen. It doesn't mean that because you decided to fool you, you'll go ahead with the election. Please, we're asking your young people, please stand down. Yeah. Parents, try to speak to your children. Talk to them. The leaders in the communities, you speak to the young people. Tell them what is going on, because all they know for 20-something years is one administration, totally brainwashed by a man who seeks revenge. I don't know on who he seeks revenge. These are your people. These are the same people that helped you when you first came into office.
Sika, sometimes I pity the coward, you know. And I often wonder if he's acting on his own
accord,
on his own accord, or if he is being led or
has to be.
misled into these kind of behaviors. And you raised a lot of fundamental points. And one of the things that stand out most in my mind is, what does another 5 years of Skerrit mean for Dominica? And I was inside of 7-Eleven in Canefield, and I heard a young boy say, "Best I just kill myself." I tell him, "Don't do that."
Oh yeah, you ain't comments like
He
that.
say,
Yeah.
5 years, 5 more years, boy, of Skerrit. When nothing not happening in the country, no boy. Nothing not happening for me, no. Boy, 5 more years of Skerrit, boy, best I just kill myself. I can't take it. I tell him, don't say that. Where there's life, there's hope.
Yes.
Where there's life, there is still hope. 5 more years of Skerrit means 5 more years of the nurses going through all of the ordeals that they're currently going through, of a hospital that was built for them, but there are still so many equipments missing and so many supplies that they have to conduct their work without. It's 5 more years of the vendors probably going to be crying every time they are displaced. 5 more years of the truckers not being given the privilege to work on the big projects across Dominica. 5 more years of bus drivers. This one, it was COVID. What next?
COVID, yes.
We know that we are in a global recession. Things are only going to get harder. How many of you can barely go into a supermarket and make $100 worth of shopping and walk out with 2 plastic bags?
5 more years
Things
to pack up more money. 5 more years to exploit the wealth of the country and give to their friends.
5 more years to not develop the agricultural sector, to not fix the feeder roads. 5 more years of giving us substandard buildings and not giving the people that you have issued those homes to no title.
And 5 more years to employ more foreigners and
Dominicans.
And 5 more years of the brain drain for this country.
Oh,
yes.
Young people living 5
skills.
Sika, imagine 5 more years of being in a home that you were given and fearing to say a word against this organization.
Because it's a sword over your head.
This cult government, because they have put you, they have locked you up in their prison that they describe as a home. A home ought to be a comfort, a place of comfort for you. For many, it is now a prison because they're afraid to speak out. There is so much going on in the St. Joseph, in the Hillsborough estate. There is sewage water running on the streets. The Hillsborough Garden, yes. Running on the streets. But the occupants dare not speak. They cannot speak because they were given a home, and they cannot see the things that affect them because they fear that somebody is going to report them to the Parliament or report them to the Prime Minister.
They're calling them ungrateful already.
Yes, and referring to the people that deserve these things because you have displaced them economically. Everybody who has received any sort of assistance from this government deserve it because these are people whose economic advantage has been taken away from them, so they cannot afford to do the things that they used to do for themselves. We have 5 more years of a government who tell you we have the money and your houses are coming, your turn is coming.
That is why Miss John Baptist and Mrs. Joseph.
I want to complete the thought. Let me yes, not just 5 more years. The cost of freedom is never free, Dominicans. The cost of freedom is never free. What are you willing to pay for your freedom? Today, I told somebody about Rosa Parks, and I said she was afraid. She was afraid to stay sitting on that bus. She feared for her life, but she was too tired to get up. And so the spirit of the ancestors kept her seated on that bus, which started a revolution. How many of you will rise against the fear that has you bound? Because this is fear. If you cannot talk, it means that you have every reason to rise against this government. Every reason to reject that kind of government. All of you have a reason. I can tell you, thousands of Dominicans are hurting. If you cannot take care of your children, you are hurting. If you cannot go to courts and afford the fridge that gives you ice, and he tells you that you do not deserve this kind of luxuries.
You get a
You
butter container.
get a butter container.
But you cannot even buy the butter to get the container.
You buy a butter container. Everybody is revolutionizing. You're telling your people to stay stuck in an era. What you're telling them to do soon, to take the clothes and go and beat it on stone, don't buy a machine. You should want your people to progress. This is what good leaders do. They create more leaders. They leave behind a legacy of wealth, of goodwill, of strength, a foundation well built that any other government that take over from them would have inherited a country that was already built on strong foundation. Not even our democracy this man is strengthening. How can you reject free and fair election? How do you install yourself on the backs of the people? This is slavery. People bled and died to free us from tyrannical behavior, but you insist on continuing with your behavior. Brother, I don't know what is wrong with you. I don't know how many prayers. Those of you who say you are labor rights and you love your PM, start praying for this man. Because I believe he's led more than just by his very own accord, like the Honorable John said. Something motivates this man, some evil, some force, some energy. I don't care what it is, but it is not good for this country. This man announced the election date on the day that the country was the East was under siege by climate change. And ever since it has rained, it has been the same the last 3 elections. I don't know if you have noticed that. This country is crying. You, the people, you are crying. I challenge you tonight. What fear will you set aside and stand for? I am not afraid to stand. I think Rosa Parks maybe was my ancestor or something. Martin Luther King was something to me, because I'm not afraid. I am not afraid to stand. The blood of the Ballas and the Jackal run in my vein. I am not afraid to stand. There will be no elections without reform.
Yes, and we will tell you later down in the course of the week or next week what are some of the activities that we want you to get involved with, to join.
Press conference tomorrow.
Yes, there is a press conference tomorrow with all the different opposition forces. It's at 10 o'clock at the Garaway Hotel. Join us. We are uniting our forces together to inform you, to speak to you, to motivate you, because I know for years you've been brutally beaten and victimized, ostracized so many times, told so many things that you feel broken. But we're telling you tonight there is hope, and we want you to stand with us, because we are not going to back down. We are going to stand with you, and we want you to continue to support the United Workers' Party and the rest of the opposition forces who have decided that, you know what, this is a time for unity. This is a time to come together. He has created the perfect opportunity for us to marshal our forces together and stand to save this country. This is what we're talking about. We're not talking about anything else other than Dominica and how we save our young children. I'm looking at our young people, and I'm seeing abilities, I'm seeing skills, and I'm seeing these young people could have created so much in this country and do well. And you know, it will happen, but we want you to continue to stand with us. And we were telling you again, we shall not be participating in this election. We are not participating in this election. People, we want you, and we want you not to turn out if it's come to this time. Please do not turn out. It's his election. Let him have it. He has been saying all along, we don't need an opposition. We don't need an opposition. It's fine. You may have 21. If you feel you want to have 21 and you want to rule the entire nation, one man, without the mandate from the people of Dominica, for the people to be given equal rights under this land, which is supposed to be a democratic process, that the law doesn't put into only one set of people. We've suffered in 2019. We looked at you all blatantly still in the elections in front of us. We are waiting to win this election because that is what was going to happen in 2019 when busloads of people came to vote. And he said busloads of people left a few minutes after to go back to a country where there is electoral reform,
But they can,
where they can vote freely and fairly, where they can stand up and decide, yes, and you see the tag on their shirt, yes, I have voted. I have voted.
Yes.
This is what we are asking for. This is what every nation in the world has. And we are asking for this, to say, look, this is me. I come to vote. And I'm proud look, this is me on my card, on my picture, whatever it is you want to. I've come to vote. You look for my name, I have voted. And there are not 20 ghost voters. There are not 50 people living overseas. There are not how many people who have died, but they still remain on the list. We make representation. We remove them. We send them. They come back again every time.
Can you believe it, huh?
Every time. And we run an election in 2019 on a tainted list that was not supposed to be. And you still tell me that we do not have recourse in the court. When you do that to a people, what do you expect a people to do? When you've taken enough, you decide enough is enough, you stand. And whether it's civil disobedience, so we're calling on all election officers. We're calling on all of you.
Boycott.
Say no.
We're calling on you.
Do not show up on nomination
Do not
day.
show up. He told us the police shall not work, the nurses shall not work.
The teachers,
shall not work. Right? And now he's sitting in the head office and pretends that he knows nothing about the laws of Dominica. Sitting comfortably, getting thousands of dollars every month. The people in Dominica still have to play Russian roulette with bombs and tins to make sure they cover, they
catch water when it rains.
When it rains. Also, some people are fearful they will not sleep because they get wet at night. Some of them still on the tarpaulin. Some of them cannot eat, they cannot drink because they don't have the money. I got a call today, somebody telling me, my auntie is not well. We don't have anything. We cannot pay the bill. We cannot pay nothing. We cannot pay anything. Whatever we had is finished.
Is that not the same for most Dominicans?
Most Dominicans.
And
you now are important because you cannot do anything to help them financially.
That's correct.
Because the situation, the environment in this country doesn't allow it to happen. And when you put that, I'm playing this kind of humanitarian side for it. It's not something that we don't know happen in Monel. We have gone to the length and breadth of this country.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes you go in a corner and you bawl and you cry. I came from Lapland a few weeks ago. When I passed I didn't want people to see me crying. When I crossed the river, I sat on my vehicle and I cried.
I went to Bell's a few days ago and the lady said to me, my brother is disabled and there was material being shared. And because they know that I do not support them, they passed me straight. She said, I cannot work. I am 63 years old. I do not qualify for pension and I have to be putting pots and pans, running around and emptying them when it rains. And we all know that Bells is a rainy place.
Yes.
It always rains in Bells.
Our country has been faced with many challenges, and the worst of it is that ordeal of that government. That government is worse than a disaster. Look at the way our economy has degraded. Look at the way they have handled this economy. Look at the way Dominicans are not enjoying what they're supposed to enjoy. Oftentimes we make excuses for everybody and say, look, that's what they do. When are you going to do yourself? When are you going to come out from that? Before your mother or your father talk to you, before your sister or your brother, you're ready to eat them up. You're ready to fight. That's not the best approach. But if you can rebel at home, there's nothing that you're going to lose. Somebody's supposed to govern your interests. They're not doing it every year, every 5 years, every election cycle. When you measure the performance and the achievement of the men who govern us, you can measure them with increased wealth. When you measure yourself, you see that you are regressing. Yes, you may know this Labour Party only, but remember the true evaluation of how you progress is how you measure yourself. Some of you are still at your parents' home. Some of you who were 20 when they started, you are now 40.
Oh, Lord.
And by your parents' home, have you made progress? Have you made progress? These are the fundamental questions that you have to ask yourself. And are you going to continue to participate in an election to legitimize something that is not good for you? and to put your own life and the quality of your life in shambles? Are you ready to do this again? Are you ready to say that what the opposition is doing and not what you are prepared to do? Are you really, do you want to face another tomorrow after the date and say things are hard? You have a choice. You have a choice in this matter. Is do or don't do. You have a choice.
No one ever.
Let me tell you, it is no one ever. Dominica belongs to all of us.
No
Yes,
one
for
ever.
sure.
We have seen governments come and go. We have been governed before this Labour Party. We have governed during them, and we will be governed after them. They are bright men and women of this country who have trained themselves and prepared themselves. We have men and women of diverse fields, not necessarily in the United Workers' Party,
All across.
but all across Dominica, in the diaspora. Diasporans, have you not thought about it? When last have you been asked to contribute to the national development of our country? When last have you been asked to put a prospectus forward to see how much you can contribute and to harness your skills, your expertise to make a different Dominica? When last have our young men been asked that our government is ready to sharpen their skills and to formulate the necessary training modules to enhance them instead of criticizing and say we do not have the skills? After Hurricane Maria, we had an opportunity to upgrade people. Dominicans had an opportunity to renew a good life, to benefit from the proceeds that we receive from overseas. Instead, this government has turned it back again on you. That is their legacy. It will not stop. But you know what? When you support what they do, when you legitimize the actions, it is becoming worse on you. It is time to take stock. You must sit back, relax, digest, take a cup of coffee. If it's water you have, drink it, and cool that nerve and reflect. Dominicans, this is Dominica we are talking about. This is not a one-man country. They simply book all the time. You in a constituency, a picture of a man and his candidates below. That means you are second. You are second. He's first. You are second. You are not even given a chance to choose your candidate. They are chosen for you. They are imposed on you. And when they are imposed on you and you give them that mandate, you know what you are doing? You are imposing hardship on yourselves. Dominicans, no reform, no elections.
And somebody's asking, what are your strategies? We, at this point, to articulate our strategies on the air now, we have a number of strategies that we will let you know in due course. What do we want you when we call on you? All this preparation is to heighten your sense or motivate you. So when the call comes, you turn out. And the call is not just for 2 people. The call will be for thousands of Dominicans across this country.
Please turn out.
But even now in the quiet, Lady Sika, even now in the quiet, it is time for Dominicans to do some real deep reflection.
True.
Many of you chose the plans and policies of the United Workers' Party last election. Many of you, over 16,000 of you.
Yes.
That means that you wanted the plans, the economic plans that we had put forward. You wanted it for yourself. You wanted it for your future. You saw the possibilities that we had presented. Yeah. You were denied the government that would have made the difference. Our teachers are continuing to struggle. Basic wage.
Yes.
They increased the basic wage by a fraction. They put 5%. He couldn't say what 5% of $300 is. Calculate it for yourself, Jesus. And the man is saying that for the people that he really believe he can bamboozle, you know. Oh, 5% of $300. What is 5% of $300? Somebody please calculate.
$15.
$15.
$15.
$15.
One five.
So you will not get $315.
He couldn't say, I put in $15 because it was sounding so bad.
Yeah.
He said, I given you an extra 5%.
Yeah.
So
$15
$15.
Let me tell you, we presented a slate of candidates last election, people that you were confident could move your communities forward. I saw that in the election results that was presented to you. You did not get a chance to see how we could have worked to your benefit.
Yes.
Your country continues to bleed under this Roosevelt. You all see the Babel, Melissa put in around Roseau. You all see the Babel, the Cruz Village, the New Roseau, all of this, everything that was on the report card yet to be achieved, that you come before the people
of them tells you and
with a zero on your report card, and you're asking them to test me one more time. You gave us, you put us in the caring hands of the doctor in St. Joseph, in the caring hands of the doctor. 3 years later, nothing has been accomplished. I don't even know if that lady went once to Kahome or Chapara or Cuba Road. Did she ever even visit you on your farms? What do you want for yourself? Soberly think about what 5 more years of Skerrit might mean for you. It might mean the end of democracy as we know it. Do not allow that to happen. Do not allow that to happen. It is now or never.
Okay, as we wind down, ladies and gentlemen, we have had 2 hours right here in Q95. This is the Workers' Voice. In studios with me. We have our PRO, Mr. Glenroy Coffey, from the St. Joseph constituency, Mrs. Williams, Monel Williams, John Baptist, and our leader, Senator Francisca Joseph from the Laplin constituency. Ladies and gentlemen, we had also Mr. Linton with us virtually. And we have we still have hundreds of you on online, Facebook. Thank you very much.
The faith.
We truly appreciate that.
Faith. Oh yes,
That's
we do.
It means that we had not just that, we had substance tonight. We always have substance.
We always
I just wanted
always
to make
do.
sure that we repeat that we always have substance here on our Workers' Voice.
For sure.
And tonight was no different. But
I know
tonight
the consoles were blazing.
I couldn't take the call, too many calls, and and I know a lot of people called my phone and send me WhatsApp messages, but that is on my phone. I'm carrying the live, so I couldn't answer you. I will do that when I get home. But I just want to say that tonight's engagement was very important and timely because of where we're going into the home stretch of next week, and I want us to think, as Monel told us, to ponder on a lot of situations where you want to be, where you see yourself in the next 10 days. The next 10 days. Because you can either bend or break. And that's why you have to listen to your radios. Try to get the information. Listen to your caretakers. Get information on what is going on. A lot will be going on the weekend into next week. Trust me. A lot will be going on. I am telling you as well, a lot of young people are mad that United Workers is not thinking because for them to get their cool out. They are not getting cool out because there's no who's competing.
So you see, he doesn't care.
He doesn't care about the people.
He doesn't care about them.
My phone died.
Yes, that's not fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
We still have
We still
215 people on Q95.
Right.
So, thank you for staying with us. Those of you who are on here,
Yeah. So
big up yourselves.
Yeah. So I just want to say to us tonight, it was a very good discussion, and workers continue to work hard. Ladies and gentlemen, as we wind up, just give me a final closing comments.
We cannot close unless we tell Rosie good night. I don't even think we
Oh,
call our
see.
sisters. We were so
and
busy
the family
Teacher
of- and family of
Ernie.
workers.
Rosie say, make sure you
Teacher
call me. They're
Ernie.
listening all the way in London. Teacher
Oh.
Ernie, who is down in Good Hope.
Yeah.
Annette. And all
The women of
sister-
war, man.
the women
Wow,
of
wow, man.
who have worked very, very hard today to collect because we are collecting some stuff.
This was the last time.
Yeah, she was to
Right.
collect some stuff for
Denise,
the
good
people,
evening.
to help the people of, and we're not just talking, we act.
Yeah.
We always do. Even sometimes we don't publicize it openly, but we do always. And this is one of the things that we're going to do. We will be the women of workers together with all the assistance that we've been given. We will be going down to Good Hope. And just to be with the people down there, our sister teacher Ernie is there, and to give support and to show that we're not just coming on radio and talk on the, we always do, we always support, and we empathize with the people, we sympathize with some of them, because
That's
I
right.
know we had a death in as a result of the disaster, the adverse event. But it's a disaster for me, because I said anytime a community has to ask for help outside because they cannot deal with it's
The
above
impact,
their yes,
It's a disaster.
they to respond, they cannot respond, so they have to get help from outside. It is considered a disaster. And for this, if it's not for any reason at all, that the president should call off this election,
Yeah.
for this, let us pay attention to these people. Let's respond to their needs. Let's try to mitigate some of the areas that are affecting them. I saw Marion John Finn putting up a video of the backing up of the river, and the people living downstream, their lives are at risk.
Belfie,
Yes, so it's a lot going on with these people, and on top of that, you put paraphernalia in an area that these people are suffering. Where is the humanity? Where is your humanity?
You're talking in excess of 7,000 to 8,000 people affected, on the east.
Can you imagine?
Yeah,
And we have people out here, Fettying, and
one guy told me, there's no need for them to spend money. They give them their elections money already. Yeah. They give them their Creole festival tickets. Yeah. They give them certain things, and it's so amazing. So these guys are heartless, They are very heartless. But let me just say in closing, Spark, that thanks for the opportunity. I mean, not because we just see a few of us here tonight, but there are so many people working behind the scenes, even those who are overseas. Rosie, let me say good night to you. You're a hard worker, you're a hard contributor. It's not always about physical presence, but people can stay from distance. Right now, it's a global village. People can stay from distance in any geographical area in the world and communicate. And we've had that united front of our party. And I want to congratulate the United Workers' Party for standing up, and the unity that we put in it, not just before that, not just for that elections, but the unity we have had, and notwithstanding what people say about internal things. Nah, that's party affairs, man. Party affairs. Exactly. And we expect to.
But you have those things.
No, but
what is wrong? I don't completely agree, but this is a team effort. So I put aside my
personal differences,
and I joined the team. Yeah. And this is what they are jealous of.
And I think honorable leader, I want to know what is wrong. What is wrong about I fighting to be a leader of my party? What is wrong about that? Anyway, people, not that we're talking about.
It's healthy.
But let me just say, one call is that you, the people, you always have the power in your hands.
Yes.
That's just a few men vying for your power. And sometimes when you transfer that power, they use that whip against you. Because there's some people, and you can see from the actions of the leader, he's power possessed. He sits down from every 365 days of a year and planning a strategy on you, not on Workers' Party, on you, the people of Dominica. And when these guys come out with a policy, it only benefits them and not you. So let me say again, we are calling on you. That is the rhythm for the rest of the time going forward. No reform, no elections. No reform, no elections. No reform, no elections.
Thank you very much, Mr. Glenroy Coffey. And in closing,
thank you, neighbor. My neighbor, me and my neighbor. Me and my neighbor, we're not voting for Labour. But guys, I know these are serious times. We're very, very, very aware of the circumstances, that the crossroad that we are at, the situation that has been presented to us as a nation. This is a national crisis, I know, but let us not be despondent, because the power is in our hands.
Yes,
and no one ever, for me, I cannot be happier to know that I still have the power to stand. And stand I will, and stand I must. I want to encourage the people of the St. Joseph constituency, those of you who have been saying, what are you all doing? Hey, it's going to take a collective effort for us to knock some sense into our little brother head from Dong Senjode and tell him, look at the guys on the ghetto, look at the community, look at the constituency. Whether or not you there or anybody else is, the Labour Party does not care about the development of people. You don't get to make a dent. And so we're asking you even now to stand down from the cesspool of corruption
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Remove
Also
yourselves.
Paulina, yes.
Remove yourselves.
Mhm.
It is now or never.
Yep.
So you either on the side for Dominica or the side against Dominica.
Yes, I.
Yes,
Thank you
Hector,
very-
we just want to say we have the best pediatrician on the land. Lovely young woman. You know, I'm calling on you.
Oh,
I'm calling on you,
Dr. Williams.
Dr. Williams.
And you
I
have
mean,
powerful son, the
Yes,
young lady have.
I am
Mona
really
Williams.
calling on you. I
John
am
Baptist.
calling on you. Please.
Do
Yes.
I know you very well.
this is the time
I know
to
you
say.
very well. You are a beautiful soul.
Oh, when I saw her come on that platform, I'm like, what is this
You are a
beautiful woman
beautiful
doing here?
soul. Please don't let them take that away from you.
And you're a real
Please,
doctor.
you are. Oh yes, a real
No.
doctor.
And the thing about it is that as soon as you join these guys, you get tinted right away.
Oh yeah.
People just
Nobody
look at you.
abuse them too, you know. Just get rid of those guys.
Yeah.
Everybody, just
Yes,
use them and
let's,
do
so
it.
let's wind up right now. Let me just say thank you to you all. We're
Yes,
going to stay there for
because-
till
We
night.
can stay at
But
tomorrow.
first, but first thing, I would like to thank Q95 and
Yeah.
especially the technician for letting us
Oh,
connect
yes.
with
this
Mr.
man
Lincoln.
has been,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, and also having the thing as well on Q95 we're live with over 200 viewers and
Yes.
also
Facebook.
on our live 300 plus.
Yes.
So we had in excess of 600 people looking at us at one time. So that is very good
Yes,
tonight. So I just want to thank each and every one of you
yes,
at home
we
and
do.
abroad listening to us. And we just want to reach out as well to everybody in the East who got affected from the Kalinago territory
Yes, for sure.
right down to Dalis, Pilisavan who got affected and who still being cannot get the type of support and resources that they require to help them feel more comfortable to bring life back to a little form of normalcy. Just want to reach out to
And
you
Hector, tell them that we'll be seeing all of them
on the weekend.
Yeah.
weekend.
On the
We'll be
weekend,
seeing all
the,
of
the
them.
United Workers' Party will be making a turnaround and to see you all. Genuinely not to come to campaign, but to come here to see you genuinely in the trend.
We campaign where?
Campaign round,
Is
we have-
anything
don't use that
happening?
word.
No. The reason I say that because he went down there to campaign today again. While they're struggling. Brothers and sisters, thank you for joining us. Our political leader, Senator Joseph Manuel John Baptist Williams John Baptist from St. Joseph, or PRO, Mr. Glenn Royce also Coffee, and the leader of the parliamentary opposition, Mr. Linton, join us virtually as well. Thank you for being with us. I just want to wish you a happy weekend and listen to the activities. Farmers
Yes.
from Salisbury, every farmer from Salisbury, please join us at the Salisbury Primary School auditorium at 5 p.m. on Sunday, November 14th, and we're going to discuss some very pertinent issues that we started on the 14th of October,
Press
2000.
conference tomorrow
And-
at Gary Hotel at 10
10
o'clock.
yes.
Please,
And
we'd like
this
you to
one,
join in.
we're going to close on this one. I'm Not Dangerous by Nasir Fontaine.